Good evening. I'd like to call our regular business meeting to order and ask the treasurer to call the roll.
President Baker.
Present.
Mr. Brown.
Here.
Vice President Cole.
Present.
Ms. Gibbs.
Here.
Ms. Hudson.
Here.
Mr. Peretti. Ms. Reyes.
Here.
You have a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. And I'd like to surprise Rick Studer from Columbus Rotary by asking him to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If you wouldn't mind, please approach the podium, Mr. Studer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Thank you, Mr. Studer. Thank you. The superintendent had a previous engagement where he is still. He will join us as soon as he is able to do so. Deputy Superintendent Stanford will stand in until the superintendent arrives. The board plans to go into executive session. We'll return just as quickly as possible. Thank you all for your patience. I'm going to ask Vice President Cole to offer a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is recommended that the board recess into executive session per section 121.22 G1 Ohio Revised Code to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Mr. Treasurer?
President Baker.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Vice President Cole.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs.
Yes.
Ms. Hudson.
Yes.
Ms. Reyes.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. The board will now recess into an executive session. We will return just as quickly as possible. Thank you for your patience. We're going to go up to the cabinet room. Mr. Treasurer? All right. Thank you for your patience. We appreciate it. The chair will now entertain a motion that we adjourn out of executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Treasurer?
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Vice President Cole.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs.
Yes.
Ms. Hudson.
Yes.
Mr. Peretti.
Yes.
Ms. Reyes.
Yes.
President Baker.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. The chair will now entertain a motion that we adopt the agenda as it has been presented to us.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Treasurer?
Vice President Cole.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs.
Yes.
Ms. Hudson.
Yes.
Mr. Peretti.
Yes.
Ms. Reyes.
Yes.
President Baker.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. It's my understanding that we have no speakers signed up to address the board this evening. So we will move directly into the superintendent CEO executive report, and I will call on the deputy superintendent to present the report.
Good evening, President Baker, Vice President Cole, and members of the Board of Education. We have been busy with the start of the district summer school program, one of the largest in the region, which began yesterday for elementary, middle, and high school. Students choosing to accelerate their studies or seek specialized attention on tough subjects. This was the first year for our online summer school registration. We successfully processed more than 3,000 online registrations. Our elementary and middle school programs will run for 5 weeks, Monday through Thursday, half and full day programs ending July 20th. Our high school summer school classes will run for 6 weeks, Monday through Thursday, ending July 28th. As of today, we have enrolled more than 3,600 K-12 students for our district summer school sites, and that number is expected to grow once enrollment is complete. Registration for summer school is closed, but we are still enrolling high school seniors working toward graduation in August and third graders that need to pass the third grade reading assessment. Already, 81.3% of the district's third graders have met the benchmark to advance to the fourth grade. Last week, we launched, absolutely. Last week, we launched our Mission Possible effort to go door to door and speak directly with the families of our third graders who still need to pass the third grade reading assessment. As a result of our efforts, 835 third graders are enrolled in summer school this summer. If families have questions about summer school, they can call the summer school office at 614-365-3285. 5010. This past weekend, we had 484 teachers, staff, students, families, and allies sign up to march together during Saturday's Pride Parade. Many others who didn't pre-register also joined us for that activity. Superintendent Good, Board Member Dominic Peretti, and others handed out nearly 200 kindergarten through second grade softbound books, about 90 activity packs filled with books, worksheets, and pencils, along with about 100 Super Reader water bottles to youngsters along the route. We plan to do the same at the Latino Festival and the African American Male Wellness Walk. Both are in August. Our support of the community is a true example of our commitment to the spirit of success. Now, at this time, I'd like to ask our invited speaker, the Columbus Rotary's Student Service Above Self Project Coordinator and one of our dedicated community partners, Rick Studer, to step forward to the podium and provide a brief update on the Rotary's Service Above Self efforts, which is an example of how the community supports the spirit of success in Columbus City Schools. Mr. Studer?
Thank you. Thank you very much, board members, administrators, teachers, audience. You have a packet. I've got the 2 high school fair programs are in there. That's a quick summary of all the close to 100 community service projects conducted by teams of kids from all the middle schools and all the high schools. Invite you to take a look at that at your leisure. I'm just happy to be here for a few moments to celebrate this partnership, which has been going on since 2003 and is going to continue on as long as I'm walking anyway. So let's keep it going because we've got so many opportunities. I'm skipping to the preview of this next year. We're going to continue to expand community service activities in the middle schools. The middle schools are all over this. They just do a wonderful job. And why wouldn't we expand that and have more kids have this opportunity, not just to give, but also to learn the kinds of skills that they derive from that. That's another point of emphasis I wanted to make. In talking with more and more teachers each year and more students, it just is so obvious that not only are these young people serving others and giving to others, they are enhancing really important college and career readiness skills. Leadership, organization, collaboration, teamwork, how to set goals, how to measure impact. I mean, those are crucial educational and personal skills and bits of knowledge to have. So I'm going to work with all of my partners within Rotary and within the school system. We're going to do more to intentionally help the students see that that's part of this and how this supplements and reinforces their classroom work as well as points them in good direction for the future. Many of them know that already. They'll tell us that. We just need to make that a more intentional part of what we do. We gave over $50,000 Rotary and scholarships at the high school fair. It's a wonderful venue to do that. We appreciated the mayor and the superintendent and being there to greet those kids as well as many of the project team members. So that was a highlight for those students. I think I've told you before, I don't read to intelligent people, so you've got this in front of you. It's concise. Any quick questions that I can answer?
Are there any questions from board members for Mr. Studer? Any comments, Mr. Vice President?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you so much, Mr. Studer, for coming with your colleague for the 14 years of partnership that I think have advanced the district above and beyond. I think that I had the opportunity at several of our graduation ceremonies to announce the nearly 500,000 hours of community service, and to know that this partnership played a significant role in that, and a creative role in that. It's just another reason why I'm so very proud to be a board member and also work with you directly. So thank you so much.
You're quite welcome, quite welcome. And, you know, I should acknowledge, I mean, the applause behind me, these are teachers, many of you, I'm sure, well, for those of you who are in middle school and high school, I would like to think that you had students who participated in a service above self activity. And so good for you and good for your reinforcement of them.
Board Member Brown?
Yeah, briefly, Rick, I just wanted to, again,
Sure.
thank you. The fair is always wonderful, as it was this year. The work that you're doing is important and valuable, and for all your volunteers in particular, thank you.
I would acknowledge fellow Rotarian Paul Thompson, who's here, just to be here and be supportive. Paul's been in part of this since 2003, retired executive from Nationwide Insurance and the Red Cross, or the Ronald McDonald House Board, and he's just a good example of the hundreds of Rotarians in our club who are helping the Columbus City School students either by mentoring or providing internships. We're ramping up our scholarship committee to do even more in the career tech area. You'll hear more about that this year. So we're on a roll, and thanks for letting me insert that. But there's a lot going on, and I want to be quick about this. But
All right, if there are no other
Anything else?
questions, well, just on behalf of the board, please extend our gratitude to all 300-plus members of Columbus Rotary.
Will
We
do.
appreciate the 14-year partnership, and we hope it continues far into the future.
and they send it back to you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Mr. President, that concludes the report.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Superintendent. Are there any questions for Deputy Superintendent on the report? Thank you. Madam Internal Auditor, have you anything to share with the board this evening?
Thank you, President Baker. Just this Thursday, we will have audit and accountability meeting at 3:30 in the Cabinet Room.
Thank you very much. And, Mr. Treasurer, are you prepared to report?
Indeed, I am.
Thank you.
Thank you, President Baker, Vice President Cole, member of the board. This evening, I'm here to discuss with you very briefly the May 2017 financial report. This past month, we continued the trend of revenues above plan and expenditures running below plan. We see revenues coming in about 3.8% over plan. And again, this is primarily attributable to the property tax receipts from the new levy. Expenditures run under plan, just very slightly, $6 million, which represents about 0.8% of the expenditures to date. When we delve into revenue a little bit further, you can see from last month, there's really been no change in property taxes, coming in, again, about almost $35 million above plan. On the state side, state revenue came in right on target at $181,000 above plan. Embedded within that state number is our property tax rollback and tangible personal property reimbursement that we received from the state. It came in $2.8 million under plan this month, but that offset a $3.2 million over plan last month, simply timing, expecting it to come in April, when in fact it comes in, it came in, expecting it in May, but it came in April, so that worked itself out. So far on state revenue, I do know kind of a spoiler alert for next month. June's been posted, and this line item remains very close to on plan at about $129,000 overall to plan, which is a 0.2% variance. So we expect that to hold true for the balance of the year. Another timing variance in the operating revenue area. It came in this month at about $3.2 million more over plan with the receipt of the Medicaid reimbursement. We anticipated that in June, so that'll be an offsetting variance next month. There were no change in other operating revenues. Simply gives you the breakdown to see the magnitude. I will say that so far, property taxes and state revenue represent about 97% of our revenue, and we're within 4.6% of that number on 97% of our revenue. So we're very much on target. Month to month, tracking pretty close to what we did last year. And then on the expenditure side, personnel continues its trek towards about 16 million over plan for the end of the year. They came in this month about 1.1 million over plan. On the non-personnel side, we continue to pursue an examination of that line to look for some trends in terms of historically coming in under budget to see, what, if anything, we should do in adjusting our plan, but that has increased to 15 million under plan. Community schools, right on target. We've posted all of the state deductions, and I think I shared with Finance Committee on the $180 million appropriation, we have the deductions of $180,3,500. We're like within $3,500 of that, so that minor adjustment will be made. So we're right on target there. So that's community schools, non-operating, no change from the prior month. So we're about 6 million under plan, which is just 0.8 million on 760 some million dollars of expenditures thus far. Next month, there are some large revenue items in the other category in terms of transfer outs or advances out. We'll see how that plays out. We won't know that until the middle of next week as we finalize and begin to close out the books and look to other funds to see what kind of cash flow needs are needed there. So we'll see how those variances come out for the month of June. But all in all, we're very much on target. There have been no surprises to us. I will say also that we have this week continued to monitor what's going on at the State House. Dr. Roush and I have been over to several senators' offices to have conversations. We've been to the committee hearings. We were there today when the omnibus amendment was presented, we see no real changes in that amendment from the Senate version. It looks like if this goes through, it still has to go through conference committee, but we're in that 4% cap increase range, so we'll have to assess the impact on our 5-year forecast, assuming that comes true. So we'll see what happens in conference committee. I think that is still an unknown, but now we've seen numbers 5, 5.5, 4. So we'll see where, hopefully we stay in that range and not worse. But I have no idea where it'll come out, but that's kind of what the conversation is. So we'll assess that and keep our eye on it and let you know as soon as we know when the final number is available. So I think that pretty much does it from the finance side for this past month. We did have the Finance Committee meeting last Thursday to review all of this. I don't know if Chair Peretti wants to speak to anything, but we are working on a couple of new replacement members. Got a confirmation today on one, so we'll be introducing them to the process, and all's well, I think. So that concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Mr. Peretti?
I just want to say thank you once again, Stan, for doing such a good job with this committee and watching our finances. You remind me of a saying when we talk about the state budget, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. And that's exactly what we see. What happens with school funding at the state level. Don't pay attention. We went from 7.5% cap now to a 4% cap. That's revenue that's not coming to the district because of the state budget. And just today, I didn't read it until I got here. Thank you, Board Member Brown. Senator Garner said that we're fine, although we're again another $9 million under their from the House version. So they keep on hitting, they keep on chipping away at school funding. And when we see what's going on at the state level, whether it's the homestead property tax exemption, the loss of TPP, local government funds that evaporate, local districts take a hit. And we see that happening. And we need to make sure that our legislators know what's going on, that we know that we're watching them, that it's not okay to continue cutting public education as we pick up the slack for the things that they don't include in the funding formula. So we need to get down there. We need to demand it. And I just, really appreciate all the work that you did. But the man behind the curtain is definitely what's going on in the legislature. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for the Treasurer on the report? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Treasurer. All right, the Chair will now entertain a motion that we adopt the consent agenda as it has been presented.
So moved.
Moved and
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions on any pieces of legislation contained within the consent agenda this evening? Mr. Peretti?
I just have a comment. Item 13.8, resolution award diplomas for completion of the Ohio 22-plus adult high school diplomas. I really just think that we need to really acknowledge those individuals that completed their adult high school diploma. Miss Tina Marie Campbell, Rayshawn Connor, Paulina Reed, and Brittany Stowers. My father never completed high school, and he's passed away now, but it's one of those things that he always regretted. He went right into the Navy and participated as support as a radio man for during the Bay of Pigs crisis in the early 60s. And it's one of those things that's always stuck with me. So I really, really enjoy seeing our adults continuing to get their high school diplomas, and just think that we should all just recognize those folks more
Absolutely.
publicly.
Definitely. Thank you. Board Member Brown?
Yeah, just briefly, I also want to thank the administrative staff who put together the agenda and the summaries and all of the backup information and made those available to us and to the public last week, so that this is a really large agenda with a lot of items, and it provides us the opportunity to study those things and ask questions, and there's a lot here, but fortunately, it's all looking good.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on any pieces of legislation, board members? Ms. Gibbs?
Yes, thank you, President Baker. If someone from administration could respond to 16.3, the legislation to enter agreement with the Kronos system. Kronos has been a system we've worked with over the years, and just want to update on this agreement and how it will improve our efficiency and effectiveness.
Mr. Baker. Thank you, President Baker, to Board Member Gibbs. The Kronos system was purchased some time ago. I believe, if I can get to the legislation here, it is a long agenda, Board Member Brown. Bear with me. Yeah, good night.
16.3.
I'm in the 14s.
In the treasurer section.
Okay, thank you. The Kronos system was first purchased by the board in 2006. As I researched the history of this, the responsibility for, shepherding that implementation came to the Treasurer's Office in about 2009, and over the subsequent fiscal years, we've continuously added more and more employees, starting with about 775 employees in custodial services, food service, and the Kingswood Data Center. Over time, we've completely added, or finished adding, all of the classified hourly staff, and have included many of the hourly certificated staff into the Kronos timekeeping system. We also use it for a tracking, not necessarily for pay, but for tracking for substitutes. So when they come into a building, they at least check in rather than doing it on paper and pencil. So to date, we have about almost 3,800 folks live for pay purposes. We have administrators on the system for the purposes of approving the time that's entered. That takes up about 216 licenses, and then we have 775 subs in it. We've got another 129 that we're going to take live here soon in terms of off-site, and that would be like the non-public school support, the auxiliary services folks. We're going to include them in Kronos. So we'll use up to about 4,910 of our licenses. We purchased through this service agreement, for this maintenance agreement, about 5,000 licenses. So I anticipate by the end of this coming year, we're going to have to reevaluate how many licenses we purchase. So we've been on a steady progression of implementing folks into the system. It allows us to track time accurately, keep track of absences for those people involved in the system, and it has become our source of information when we look to manage things like upcoming. You'll hear some conversation about us managing overtime. That'll provide us a lot of data on our human resource utilization in that area. So we're going to, not only are we collecting the data and using it for pay, but we've begun to pull data out and use it for managerial decision-making, if you will, and take a look at how we manage the human resource.
Thank you very much for
Sure.
that, Treasurer Bahork, because we followed this software for some time to make sure it was serving our needs and making sure we were moving to fuller capacity and use of it. And I'm glad that it's working, probably even more so with our technology as we've upgraded our technology and our business modernization efforts. And that was a huge investment on behalf of the district, but I'm glad that it is now working, and this
Yes.
agreement will help make sure it fine-tunes, ramps up, logs on and doing that. Thank you very much for that. My last two, President Baker, just want to thank Clintonville Go Public and 16.7 for their donation to Dominion Middle School and the donation to the Eagles Soccer Club for Beechcroft Boys Soccer. So definitely want to thank both of those organizations and to support our kids in all of their efforts.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments, board members? All right, Mr. Treasurer?
Ms. Gibbs?
Yes.
Ms. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Peretti?
Yes.
Except abstain 11.2.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
President Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Vice President Cole?
Yes.
That motion carried.
Thank you very much. So we'll move on to announcements. The Board of Education, as you all know, will meet again on June 30th. That meeting will be at 9:00 a.m. We'll be closing the books as that is the end of our fiscal year. I look forward to seeing most of you there. Do any of you have any announcements or anything else you'd like to share for the good of the cause this evening, Mr. Peretti?
Briefly, I just wanted to thank all of our staff and teachers and parents that came out to Pride this weekend. It was really just great seeing us all walking together in support of our community. Just thank you so much for that. The Finance Committee will not be meeting again, but we will be monitoring what is going on through June with the state budget formula, and we'll be communicating amongst ourselves and sending out communications to the public so we have a good idea and an accurate idea of what will be happening over the next 2 weeks with the state budget.
Thank you. Any other brief announcements? Mr. Vice President, I believe you were next.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Just wanted to make sure I acknowledged the Children's Defense Fund and their awarding of our students for their perseverance and tenacity. There were several students in the Columbus City School District. One of ours, Northland, is in a house in the back, and he was actually present there. Another student from Centennial, who happens to be a Syrian refugee, who is acknowledged. I was just incredibly proud to be a part of that, to see that our students, despite many of our roadblocks, still have the opportunity to get a quality education right here in Columbus City Schools. So I wanted to again commend the Children's Defense Fund and, of course, all of our teachers and educators who wrap their arms around our youngsters to ensure that they're able to move forward to success. So thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Hudson?
Thank you, President Baker. I just wanted to follow up, and I also want to thank everyone, and many of our teachers also participated, CEA participated in the Pride Parade this weekend. I was marching in a different part for some other community services that I had. But more importantly, I think to add to what the Deputy Superintendent said, the participation means a lot to the students, and the students who were there, the affirmation of the love and support that we have for all of our students, but no matter who they are and how they express themselves and love for their friends. Our next generation, we can learn a lot from, and we can learn a lot from in terms of letting go of a lot of prejudice and hate. And I hope that we all use this time to learn that lesson. Because there were some just amazing, I met some amazing young people over the weekend, and the joy that they were experiencing and just enjoying themselves and being themselves was great. So thank you so much to the CCS family and to our safety and security folks for being such a big part of those efforts.
Hear, hear. Board Member Reyes? Oh, yeah. I'll go to him last. Any other board members have anything they'd like to share? Board Member Gibbs?
I do. Definitely want to thank all of the members, the community members, far and near, to Dr. John Stanford and Ms. Cherie Wells for an amazing Innovation and Reform Committee, another roundtable that we've had. So all combined, almost 100 people came out to offer ideas around programs, efficiencies, new models, and we look forward to working over the summer and bringing to the board the results of that information and that work to look at what the next generation of high school programs will look like. We have performing arts, we have STEM, we have a number of programs. We do not have a NASCAR school just yet, so I'm crossing my fingers, I'm holding out. But the ideas that came from our community, that came from members, north, south, east, west, young and old, have been absolutely tremendous. So we do look forward to that. And I wasn't able to join you on Saturday because I was at a program from Pace Setters Unlimited, and Kristen and Andre Harper. Definitely want to shout them out for providing a historically black college and university scholarship breakfast, where 2 of our students, there were 5 students in total, 2 from Columbus schools, received scholarship dollars to attend some of our historically black colleges and universities across the country. Our students will be attending Hampton and Howard, and there are 2 more that will be going to North Carolina A&T. And so it was an amazing opportunity to, again, watch our community embrace our students and continue to give to make college more affordable, but to also to show them that they have a lot of community support. So we thank both of them for their work, and thank all of our community members who are not just going to give scholarships, but let me give a big thank you right now for everybody who's going to do the back to school drives, and they're going to give out school supplies. Teachers, I hope they make it to your classrooms, but they are going to give them out come August. And so to all of the organizations that are going to give out book bags and pencils and pens and water bottles and things that will help them be prepared, we thank them in advance for partnering with the district to support our children.
Thank you. Any other comments from board members? All right, then I will turn to Deputy Superintendent to share a few comments.
Thank you, Board President Baker. I just wanted to take a few moments to acknowledge one of the administrative promotions that the board just approved. As you know, under the leadership of Dr. Michelle Klein, we have seen some tremendous advancements with our Central Enrollment Initiative and with the Central Enrollment Center. And she has an amazing team over there, and one of the individuals that was promoted this evening is Greg Wisniewski. Is Greg here? I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Thank you. Congratulations. All right, I will now ask the Vice President to offer a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is recommended that the board recess into executive session per section 121.22 G1 Ohio Revised Code to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee, and section 121.22 G4 Ohio Revised Code to prepare for, conduct, or review negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Treasurer?
Ms. Hudson? Yes. Mr. Peretti? Yes. Ms. Reyes? Yes. President Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Brown? Yes. Vice President Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs?
Yes.
That motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. The board will now recess into executive session. We will adjourn from that executive session without returning to these chambers. Thank you very much for being here this evening. Have a good night. Treasurer's office.